Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for this webinar. And as people just kind of come in and join us, I'd like to start with our land acknowledgement before I introduce anyone. So Business Link acknowledges and respects that we're on traditional land, meeting grounds, territories, gathering places, and traveling routes of Treaty 4, 6, 7, 8, and 10, and the home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge the lands of those who have come before us, reside here now, and in the future. So welcome. Thank you very, very much indeed for joining us. This is a part of a series where we are really looking into various aspects of digital marketing with our friends over at 910. And they've been it's great because obviously we know it changes all the time, and they've been so ready to adapt and change and really keep us up to date with what is going on. We got a couple of changes in how we organize this. So for the chat, we we it's not kind of visible to the public, but if you see your questions in the chat, if you'll see the chat at the bottom of the screen there, if you put your questions in those in the chat, we'll see them, and I'll make sure and Ryan will make sure they're addressed, and we'll ask Megan and we can have those. So the discussion absolutely will still happen, and we'll just kind of restate them for you there. So that's at the bottom of the screen there. But without kind of further ado, I'll introduce myself. I'm Matt Hill, Director of Operations and Client Service here at Business Link, and this is kind of a great moment in my week, and I hope everyone who's joining us too. We get to hear some wisdom, have some conversation, have some discussion around social media marketing, which is, judging by how many people signed up for this webinar, everyone's favorite topic. So over to Megan and Ryan over at 910 so they can introduce themselves and get us started.
All right. Thank you, Matt, and the Business Link team that's working hard in the background. Sure do love collaborating with you because we care about small, medium business in Alberta and entrepreneurs. So I'll let Megan introduce herself in a moment. Megan, thumbs up. You can see my shared screen. Perfect. So today's session is about social media marketing. That's close to my heart. In 2010, I launched a company called Go Social. Fast forward through a lot of details. That company merged with 910 proper. And in 2010, the launch of Go Social was to help small, medium businesses learn about and adapt to these new tools called social media. So, we've really been focusing on social media training and engagement and helping small businesses adapt to these new tools since 2010. And most businesses now, I think, understand the power of social media, and there's lots of, best practices to learn to do that well. The reason I bring that up is because, 15 years later here in 2025, rinse and repeat, we're doing that again, but this time we're focusing on AI. So although today's session isn't about AI, there's certainly AI touches everything, including many, many AI tools that will help you manage your social media better. So we'll certainly touch on some of those today, and we'll get into it. But real quickly, 910 is a full-service digital marketing agency. We are an AI-first agency. We implement AI in our processes and in our tools. We have lots of services that we offer for our clients that involve AI. And our training academy, which is, today is about transferring knowledge. Our training academy has lots of information about AI as well. So we're a mean and nimble team located in Grand Prairie, and but we serve all of the province and actually into Western Canada. And really, our mission is simple. We are trying to empower small, medium businesses, solopreneurs, and entrepreneurs to establish their brand, to take it online, and to quote unquote activate it, to execute a best-in-class digital marketing strategy so you can connect with your consumers. So that's sort of our mission. And our vision is that every small, medium business in Alberta has the tools, the resources, the confidence to be able to do increasingly more of this in-house. AI is making that significantly possible. So that's why we're in partnership with Business Link, because we have a shared vision of supporting small, medium businesses. There's lots of different services we offer, and Megan will touch on some of them today. But social media marketing would fit on that sort of one called marketing there. And really, this screen represents a little bit of everything we do, and it's sort of sequential. We always start with branding, and then we build the framework, get you online, and in the end, you can see the training. That's our promise, that we will transfer knowledge to you, give you the skills and the tools so that you can increasingly take on more of these digital marketing activities in-house. And this is a necessity for small, medium businesses. You won't necessarily have the resources to pay an agency to do it for you, but you certainly can learn the skills to be able to do more of that on your own. So with that, why get social? And so I'll hand it over to Megan to introduce herself and kick us off.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan. I see a couple of names that I recognize in the participants list there from our newcomer entrepreneur forum on Saturday. So it was really fantastic to connect with so many of you. And I really hope that some of this might sound a little familiar, what Ryan was just talking about with the brand and how we want to start with those foundations. You'll remember that from Saturday. So I'm really excited to see you here and impart a little bit more knowledge. So social is a really generic term. And when I am teaching in our training academy, social really funnels into a lot of different spaces in marketing. So why should small businesses do marketing, social media marketing? A lot of businesses focus on the kind of like the quote unquote free organic marketing. The reason I put it in quotes is because you still have to invest your time and energy into it. And as business owners, entrepreneurs, even small enough team, your time is money, as we as we say, right? You wear so many different hats and you have so many different priorities that calling it free is kind of a misnomer, but it doesn't require any monetary investment all of the time. Now, of course, there are things like paid advertising, which we won't touch on today, but the organic side of it is really looking at building out that kind of brand personality, that brand awareness, like we talked a little bit about in the last couple of sessions as well. So social media marketing really helps businesses reach people where they are. It's called inbound marketing, where you go out to people to bring them into where you are. You meet them where they're at. It's not the big billboard in Times Square right there. You cast a wide net and just hope you meet the right people. You're able to be a lot more targeted with the audiences that you're trying to reach. There's also a lot of resources that are very readily available for social media marketing. YouTube, just search in social media marketing, you're going to get 1.5 million results. Our training academy, you can get short courses to professional certifications on marketing, including social media. So there's a lot of resources available for you to learn these skills, which is part of the reason why it's become such a huge marketing tool for small businesses. And of course, it's good for building brand awareness, for developing that brand personality, like I was mentioning, just being able to share a little bit more authentically of who you are as the brand, as the business. Take a look at some really excellent corporations online. Duolingo is doing a really excellent job at building their brand persona through social media marketing. So if you want a great example of what that looks like, that's a good one. They're quite funny. But why should you use social media marketing? We talk about this kind of hub and spoke model when it comes to digital marketing in general. There's your rented versus owned digital property. When we think about real estate, your owned property is something that you control. You can paint the walls whatever color you want. You don't have to worry about hanging things and causing little dings if you're the one that's going to be fixing them anyways, right? It doesn't, you get to control what happens. Versus your rented property, you probably have to get permission to paint the walls. You have to hang your photos with sticky tack or those command strips, right? You can't just put things into the walls because it's not technically your property. When we think about digital marketing, a lot of that is those kind of concepts are reflected. So your website is kind of what we refer to as your owned property. You get to control the branding, you get to control the messaging. How you direct people to that platform is very much in your control. And you want to kind of direct people back into that ecosystem because it's what you can manage. Versus your quote unquote rented digital platforms would be the things like social media, your Facebook, your Instagram, even your Google My Business listing, right? Because you're not the one that owns that property. You can't necessarily control the algorithms and who all sees those things. So we have to manage kind of a balance between technically, yes, it's quote unquote free, but we always want to drive people back to our hub. So when we're thinking about social media marketing, think about this framework of it is a channel to get people to my main hub, my website, where I can own that messaging a little bit better. Ryan, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just a little addition to add to this. When I look at this, I sort of envision arrows going from the center out, and then from the spokes back in. So you can sort of think of this as the content about your company, about your products, whatever. You're pushing that content out to the Facebook, to the Instagram, to the YouTube, X, used to be called Twitter. You're pushing that content out because that's where your audience is. So you can imagine arrows going out, pushing content out to these, but then you can imagine those arrows in being the traffic. You're trying to connect with those people on Instagram or Pinterest or wherever and then you drive them to your hub, as Megan said, because you own your hub, you can set it up any way you want. It's your messaging, your colors, your brand, your offers, etc. So a lot of the dynamics between rented versus owned is you are in control when you're in your own position, but you recognize that most of the audience is going to be over on those other platforms where you have to rent space to capture them as well. Megan, just a question here, and I know you'll talk about that later. We won't go in depth, but there's a question about, the general demographics that are differentiated between each site. So just passing on that question for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we will touch on kind of the best use cases for each platform and what content is best optimized, because social media in general has become so global, universal. Speaking about specific demographics like age, gender, location, that kind of thing, isn't necessarily as beneficial as kind of the best use case scenario. So that is the answer to that. We'll talk about that next, actually. But first, if you remember in that little list of things that Ryan showed at the very beginning, we had the brand being first. Part of branding is understanding your audience, right? And if you were at our session on Saturday, you'll recognize this photo. But what we're thinking about when it comes to brand is our audience, right? Especially when we want to meet our audiences where they are, we have to think about who they are, their needs, their personalities, all of those kinds of things. Each target audience is going to need something a little bit different from you. If you're targeting everybody in the world, you're not actually going to be sharing an effective message with anybody, right? So each target audience, you're going to want to speak to a little bit differently, have nuanced messaging, because they're going to need different things from you. So when you're thinking about marketing on social media, it's really important to remember that each time you put a message out, remember which audience member you're speaking to, which audience group you're speaking to, so that you can really effectively then use the language that's going to be effective for them, right? Marketing to everyone is kind of marketing to no one. So always thinking about your brand, who you are at your core, right? Your personality and your audience and who they are and what they need from you when it comes to social media marketing. Like I said before, with that inbound style, what Ryan referenced with trying to bring people from the social channels into your hub, part of that is having a real connection with them, and you build that through understanding who they are and what they need from you. All right, so let's talk about how to choose your platforms. We are not multi-billion-dollar agencies with hundreds of people on our marketing teams that can invest hours and hours and hours into each individual platform that exists on the market. That's not realistic, right? So what we need to do is choose where we want to dedicate our time, right? Most of us here wear many hats. We are in a marketing role. We are maybe in an admin role. Maybe we're in a sales role as well. We wear so many different hats that there's only so many hours in the day that we can dedicate into our marketing. So we have to decide where we want to put that energy first. If your target audience is not going to be on X, don't put your time into marketing on X. Put it towards where your audience is going to be at, right? So this is to answer your question there about the demographics on each platform. Each platform is going to have a slightly different function, right? So it's going to attract slightly different people. Facebook and Instagram are fairly universal. They're really better for that kind of B2C, so business to consumer relationship, wanting to connect with individual people. They're really great for building kind of connection. So we want to think about if our audience is wanting to have a personal relationship with us, Facebook and Instagram might be a little bit better for building that relationship. LinkedIn is very much for business and thought leaders. It's really great for that business to business, B2B connection. So that relies on a little bit more leadership from your team to be able to invest into that and sharing a little bit more of that educational thought leadership style of content. So LinkedIn is more for kind of your business and thought leaders. YouTube is fairly universal, but it's really good for education. So if your audience is one that's looking for information about how to do things themselves, YouTube might be a really great platform for you. If your audience is looking for you to do things for them, maybe that's not the best option, right? So thinking about it's very much more like a database than it is a social media platform, but it's still very, very useful for those educational types of content. TikTok is not just for young people anymore. It has a very diverse audience group, and it's expanding into many, many different age demographics. It's much more for the casual viewer. It's really good for kind of those niche content topics where you can get very hyper specific with the audiences that you reach because of how advanced the algorithms are. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But it's really better for B2C, very similar to Facebook and Instagram, where we're having real, authentic kind of conversations with people rather than more of that business relationship. So very good for that. X, formerly Twitter, very fast-paced, very quick update conversation type of things. It's not as good for building like real connections with people because you can't have those kind of in-depth moments sharing that type of content. It's really more for kind of those quick, very fast-paced conversations. So those are really great. Your audience is more sports. The sports industry is a really great example of X. Twitter is a very good space for the sports industry because it's so fast-paced and wanting to get updates right away. A little bit more of that kind of connection is best suited for other platforms. So that's kind of thinking about the goal of the relationship that you want to have, right? How do you want to serve your customers? What kind of relationship do you want to build with them is going to be where you base your priorities from, right? Trying to access just the widest audience possible by posting the same thing on every single platform isn't going to serve you as best as it can. So what you want to do is choose your priorities. What kind of goals are you setting out for yourself? What kind of relationships do you want to have with your customers, with your audiences? And then that kind of leads into where your priorities should be for your investment. We do have a question about Truth Social, and is it a platform you should be utilizing as a marketer? Here in Canada, not as much. That is not a platform that has really taken off here in Canada. It was created mostly out of the US. Yeah, Ryan, go ahead. I'll let you touch on that as well.
Well, and I was just writing an answer in the chat here. Truth Social is fairly niche. It's quite politically oriented, and it has a low following at this point. So for Canadian businesses, probably not. But this is a good example of a niche platform that will show up, and there's tons and tons of them. So the caution that I put in there previous to that question was there's too many platforms likely for a small, medium business to do well on all of them. So you really need to identify which ones are the lowest hanging fruit. And it's an exercise of actually saying no. Which are the ones that you should say no to because you don't have the time and the resources to do an excellent job on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and Pinterest and Truth Social and TikTok and whatever. So really what you're going to want to do is really understand who's your target audience, what's the type of content that you can create consistently. And then from there, once you answer those questions, the platform of choice will naturally identify itself as opposed to just trying to choose the platform without really answering those questions first. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah. Great question from Kimberly in the Q&A there. So does the whole Canada US thing affect socials that you should be targeting? More so it affects the messaging that you should be putting out into the world, right? If your demographic focus is to be in Alberta, Western Canada, BC, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, that kind of thing, you should be focusing on that kind of Canadian audience, Canadian language, Canadian themes. If you're wanting to expand internationally, you can talk about those being a Canadian business that wants to build relationships with US customers. So it's less about the social platform that you're using and more about the messaging that you're choosing to share. So I
Yeah,
hope
and
that
I want to add to that as well, Kimberly. Businesses also have a choice to be political or not. You can you can be politically active as a business or neutral, or you can avoid getting into political discussions of course, which is happening right now with Canada, US, and the world and the tariffs and whatnot. But similarly, during COVID, some businesses were shutting down physically and others had online storefronts. And so there was a lot of marketing to remind their target audience, yes, we're closed, but just to let you know, we are a business that you can choose to engage with online digitally. Similarly, if consumers are choosing to focus and buy Canadian, it's appropriate to remind them if you have Canadian services or products, without necessarily having to get into the political muck, if you will, unless, of course, you choose that. So that's more of a preference and sort of certainly some best-in-class considerations there to focus on. That's beyond the scope of today's session for sure. And just another question while I'm talking, Katrina has a question about email marketing. We won't touch on email marketing in this webinar other than to say social media significantly involves creating a content strategy to engage with your audience. Well, that same content strategy can be modified for email marketing. So it is sufficient to say that if you're doing a great job at social media, you're probably doing a great job at content, which means both blogging and email marketing are probably within reach for you because you've proven to yourself you have a good content strategy. And so I know that's how Megan would think about that. Back to you, Megan.
Yeah. We won't talk about email marketing today. Next session is about content marketing in general. So that will have a little bit of email marketing involved. But we did do a session last year's series specifically about email marketing. So I know that that's going to be on both 910s and Business Links YouTube if you're interested in that as well. All right. So let's talk about a little optimal content for kind of the quote unquote big six. I'm not going to talk about necessarily the niche platforms. Like I know there's one called Lemonade. There's another one called, there's Threads, which is the meta version of Twitter. We won't touch on those too much because they're so new and niche in the marketplace. But kind of the big six that small businesses usually go with. What kind of content should we be sharing on those platforms to engage the best engagement with our audience? So with Facebook, it's really about building relationships. Like I talked about, it's really great for brand awareness. It started out as this wanting to build real connections with your family, friends that you may not have in your physical life day to day, right? I know a lot of my family is in the US and all around the world, and being able to connect with them by this kind of almost parasocial relationship is really important, right? To maintain those relationships. So that's how Facebook started. And a lot of that mentality has been consistent throughout the marketing side of Facebook. So people are looking to see themselves represented, having content that reflects people and human connection. Sharing photos of people, of events, of real things is very valuable on Facebook as a platform. Rich media, diverse content, so having beautiful graphics that are branded, having videos, sharing a lot of kind of different things on your Facebook is really a great place to do that. The other thing is it's really great for sharing links back to your website. Instagram isn't as great for that, so we'll touch on that, but Facebook is a really great platform to be able to, hey, here's a link to our blog, go back to our website about that.
One thing I want to jump in and add here is I think it's also appropriate to say, and choose the platform that you think you'll have fun with. And what I mean to say is we've seen this with so many of our clients. If they're enjoying posting to whichever platform, they're going to be significantly more likely to create good content, to be consistent, to be authentic and engaging. So if you're someone who's in charge of the marketing and you tend to be really great at creating long form content, well, then that's appropriate to consider that content structure and then think about what's the best way to use that. So also blogging and email marketing is a good fit. I know that's not what we're talking about today on social, but which of the social platforms is a good fit for long form content since you have a knack at doing that? And if instead you're like, I love creating short spicy, really creative video content, well, then you've just opened yourself up to Instagram, Reels, and TikTok. So I do think it also is worthwhile considering what do you think you will like doing, and that's a good consideration as well. Back to you, Megan.
It's huge. I want to touch on the whole authentic content thing in a minute, but we have a question about when we're talking about Facebook, are we talking about posting or paid advertising? This is just organic posting, paid advertising. There are separate considerations, separate rules, and we won't touch on that today. With genuine, authentic content marketing, like Ryan was touching on, what are you going to have fun with? People are very in tune with human relationships, and if you're not being authentic, if you're not being genuine with your marketing, people can tell. That's just something that it's an intuition that we have. And so, yes, choose platforms that are going to be enjoyable for you to do that. Ryan, if you just want to share kind of how to contact us as well.
Yeah, sure. And I'll put that in there. But I just wanted to add on that question from Steph about posting organic content versus paid. We're not covering that in depth today because paid is a whole nother beast, but it's probably the most important consideration for businesses, especially if they're on Facebook. When you post something to the news feed, it goes out organically, that's sort of the term, for free, and it'll reach a certain amount of people based on the algorithm and how well they've engaged and the type of content. And there's so many factors, but the long and short is that Facebook has been reducing the amount of people that you'll reach organically. Why? Because it's their business model for you to use paid advertising. So when you choose to boost one of your organic posts or to create an ad campaign, you're giving money to Facebook, to Meta, and you're saying, in exchange for this money, I want this post to be seen by, and then you enter their tool to basically, identify the targeting of the demographic in the region that you want that your post to be seen at. So it's a significantly more sophisticated way to get your content out there, but you should not be doing that until you have a good targeted content strategy. So usually, if you think of this as scaling up, you want to get good at your organic before you're going to put money behind it. Do not throw good money after bad. All right, back to you, Megan, and I'll put the how to reach out to us in that post as well.
So then for Instagram, it's very much still kind of like that connection that we were talking about, but it's very visual focused, right? It's about sharing your videos, your photos, about your life, that kind of aesthetically put together version of that authentic self. So it's maybe, it feels maybe a little bit less authentic, but it still should reflect kind of that internal brand, who you are. Reels and videos are really great for engagement as well as stories. It really helps kind of build that connection. Can I use AI to auto-generate content based on my brand? I have some really exciting news for you. We're going to talk a little bit about some new platforms that are available at the end. So stay on for that at the end of today's session, and we'll talk about that, Clayton. All right. Chatting about LinkedIn, long form thought leadership content. It's really great for kind of a little bit more in-depth storytelling, educational thought leadership type of content from leaders. So that's fantastic. A little bit about X, very short conversations that kind of, I think it's 240 characters now, if I'm not mistaken, in a little expression they call them. If you're wanting to get involved in that, TikTok is very authentic, very much that human, not overly produced video, really just sitting in front of the camera, having a conversation. Videos between 30 to 45 seconds. It used to be a lot shorter, but now expanding a little bit more into kind of a little bit longer. You can post up to 10-minute videos on TikTok as well. Photos and stories are starting to become a little bit more common on TikTok. The photo feature is a new one, and so the TikTok algorithm is pushing it out a lot more than what it used to. And so sharing photos on TikTok is going to get you more views and those kinds of things. YouTube, I know that we have a question from Christy about thoughts on YouTube. Lately, we're getting informed that they want us to quote unquote Google a topic. Let's look it up on YouTube first, especially for events and travel products. So yes, like I mentioned earlier, YouTube is very much kind of a database platform rather than a quote unquote social platform. It's not really made for conversations the way that some of the other platforms are, but that's why it's so great for things like the educational content, a little bit more long form. If your audience is very much looking for an answer, how to do something, how to navigate something, YouTube is a really great place to do that. It's also a great place to put information into your website as well. So if we're talking about blogging, having a YouTube channel, posting things on YouTube gives you a really great source of material to embed into your blogs or your emails, right? So it gives you a diverse way to repurpose content as well. So YouTube is a great place for that. Can we talk about the use of hashtags as well? Hashtags are a really complex topic. They started out as more so like well, for categorizing, right? You're tagging your information with irrelevant topics, but it became a little bit more of like a conversation algorithm driver. So if you're liking content that has a particular number of hashtags on it, or the types of hashtags, that's the content that you're going to get shown more. And there is a lot of conflicting data out there. Instagram themselves were saying between 5 and 10 hashtags is optimal. Other studies showed that between 20 and 30 was most optimal for engagement on Instagram. So it's really about more so testing your audience and seeing what you get best response on. Yeah, Ryan, go ahead.
These are wonderful questions, and the questions related to content. You're definitely a good fit to attend our next webinar, which is all about content strategy. So I've put the link in the chat as well. And where this is, I will just kind of plant the seed here. When we're talking about content strategy, quite often when clients are ready, we help them develop content strategies where they're going to be doing blogging or email marketing. What's great about that long form content is you could take a blog article about one of your products or services or promotions or a new hire or something that's happening within the economy or whatever. But that long form content, very often you can take one blog article and you can very easily break that up into 6 Facebook posts, right? So the benefit of long form content is that you can then repurpose it in many different ways across your various platforms. So you can say this long form content is really great ideas to then create maybe 6 short form video contents for Reels and 2 shorter content for LinkedIn or whatever. So we'll cover a lot of that in the next session, and just an encouragement for whoever's interested in content strategy. Definitely a good session to attend.
Absolutely. All right, I want to jump into the next topic here to make sure that we cover everything. But if we think back to this idea of that rented versus owned digital property, that also means you have to play the game, right? We don't control the algorithms on Facebook and LinkedIn and TikTok and X. We don't have control over that. So we have to understand how they operate in order to be able to quote unquote play the game, right? All these platforms use an I scratch your back, you'll scratch mine type of mentality. Facebook not pushing out organic content quite as much is a reflection of the fact that they want you to pay for advertising, right? That's the whole game. That's their business model. For Google My Business, they want you to be able to post updates on the platform, to do the Q&As, the FAQs in the platform themselves, because of how it shows that you are using their platform. It's giving them incentive to share your information with more people, right? So that kind of mutual agreement, what I was saying about TikTok and sharing photos on TikTok being better for the algorithm, that is because you're using new tools that pushes more information out to more people. So that whole mutual kind of beneficial relationship is really important for playing the game, basically. So a few things that you can do to benefit yourself on all of these platforms is use optimal content for that platform, right? Understand what's going on that platform, the new tools that are being shared, posting reels on Instagram, posting stories on Instagram and Facebook, posting your photos on TikTok now as well, right? Those types of things really help to build out your relationship with the platform itself. Matt, I see you came off mute there for a second. Do you want to jump in here?
Yeah, we were talking about this yesterday. So we hosted quite a large event on Saturday in Edmonton, and Megan was the speaker, which was awesome. Now, we don't need to kind of necessarily reinvent everything, do we? But we just have to kind of splice and dice and make that. We had lots of speakers and photos were taken and things happened. But obviously it would be crazy for us to try and put out like huge long videos in all our platform of the whole event, but we could splice and dice that was right for each platform, I'm assuming. So taking one, and I see sometimes people do it with like they'll post a big blog or even a podcast. I see this actually lots with podcasts, and then that's like kind of split out into micro content for different platforms.
Matt, what you just observed there, intuited, is exactly the same of a long form blog content can be diced into many other short forms, but podcasts are the best for that. So we have some clients where they work on long form podcast format, knowing that it's possible that no one will ever listen to the full 45-minute podcast. But by virtue of recording it, they've been able to then chop that into many other pieces, which will get attention and will drive people back to their hub, their website, which is actually a question that Morley asked. He said, website, how to integrate with social media. Well, the social media is where you reach people and catch their attention with multiple forms of long, medium, short form content, driving them back to your website where you have your products, your service, your overview. Maybe you have e-commerce, all of that sort of stuff. So.
Okay. And so, yeah, I mean, kind of Mary Linda in the chat that we can see here, she says, yeah, so in terms of the cross-posting across two social media platforms, we're not necessarily directly doing the same thing on each of those platforms, but there is likely to be something is shared. It's like, yeah, but it's not necessarily the exact same thing, I suppose.
Absolutely. Cross-posting, repurposing content, making sure that, if you write a piece for LinkedIn that's a little bit longer form, you can take the piece that's a little bit more engaging for kind of personal relationships and post that part on Facebook, right? You're not necessarily needing to recreate the wheel, but like you said, Matt, you're optimizing the content that you're sharing for the audience that's there. And kind of tied to that, another question that we have is, can you add a YouTube video to a Meta platform to improve your engagement, maximize your reach there? And yes, absolutely. Sharing the links to your YouTube channel or clipping that longer piece of content into, short form videos to put on Instagram Reels. That's a great way to repurpose your content to maximize your engagement and reach there.
One quick note here, again, a flag for the next session. We're talking a lot about content creation. There's an entire strategy around content curation. So curation is the idea that there's great content being produced out there and you're identifying it and you're bringing it to your audience. So you don't have to necessarily be the source of the author of this great content, but you have a sense of taste or aesthetic, or you found the most relevant content that's related to your business or your products or your services, and you're bringing that forward and sharing it with your audience with whatever spin you want to put on top of that. So there's a really good reason to be curating content as much as creating your own content as well. Megan, just a time check, 11:38. I know I keep interrupting, so just so you're aware of time.
That's good. Just one quick more question in the Q&A there. Dina asks, what metrics should we use to track customer satisfaction and retention rates? That is, again, a whole nother beast of a conversation. There's so many to look at, and it's really based on kind of your goals and what you're trying to achieve. And that was another session that we did in the last series last year. So that's another recording that will be available on both 910 and Business Links YouTube if you're interested in that. So, all right, jumping into chat about understanding algorithms and trends. So like I said, using the platform, using the tools that are available to you on that platform really helps to push your content out to a wider audience. That being said, algorithms are kind of fickle, and sometimes your content is going to get widespread engagement. You're going to have likes on your videos from months ago and just kind of consistent engagement. And then sometimes maybe your video is going to get 30 views and that's it, right? And sometimes we don't always know why. Sometimes it can be the content itself. Sometimes it can be the time that you posted it. And so when we're looking at what content performs really well and using that optimal content for each platform. Looking at those outliers, but not necessarily taking them too seriously, can help you understand the algorithm a little bit as well.
Can I just give a pragmatic example of the algorithm? Someone just said, can you add YouTube video to Meta? We just talked about that. Yes, you can add a YouTube video to Meta, to Facebook, and it'll play it properly. You can also add a YouTube video to LinkedIn. That said, both LinkedIn and Facebook allow you to upload the video directly to Facebook's video platform. The algorithm will preference, Facebook likes when you use its video platform. So if you want your video to get maximum reach, it's in your best practice to upload it to YouTube, because it's a good place for it to live there for the search engine optimization to embed on your website. But if you want maximum engagement in Facebook's platform, you'll probably want to redundantly upload it directly to Facebook. That's extra steps, let's say. But that's the best in class. So when you really understand some of the details of algorithm, it'll help you determine your workflow and your processes, which sometimes does feel tedious and create extra work. But that extra work is to maximize your reach or your engagement, or to maximize the considerations of the algorithm.
Yeah, absolutely. So with kind of algorithms, part of that is trends. Participating in the community, the social community, and participating in the conversations that are happening in the form of trends. So on Instagram and TikTok, that very often looks like trending audios, trending dances or conversations that are happening. I know a while ago, one of the trends was going around the office and asking different people in the office, how do you say this phrase in corporate, right? So participating in those kinds of things shows the platform, shows the community that you are invested in participating, and that helps your placement in the algorithm as well. Using the tools that you have available to you on the platform, but also using tools like ChatGPT, AI tools that we'll talk about in a couple minutes here, to help build your efficiency and streamline your process, so that, again, you are one person. You only have so much time to be able to invest in these things. Use the tools that are available to you, and it will help. Staying consistent with your brand, your voice, your message, can really help. So when we think about staying consistent with your brand, identify what your internal brand is, identify who your audiences are, so you're reaching out to the right people. Identify what your brand voice is, what your core message and your tone is, what your story is. That all comes together in creating a consistent brand presence online that people will recognize, even if maybe you don't show your logo, the face, right? You don't show that, but you still have the consistent voice, you still have the consistent audience, target audience. They will still recognize you because of how you're showing up. All right, so this kind of alludes a little bit to the next session as well. Ryan, I see you came off mute there, go ahead.
I know, I just was gonna be ready to jump in, no worries.
Yeah. So with developing strategies, using your brand for direction will really help. So this, again, first step, understand what your brand is in order to then develop a strategy. So we'll talk about how to develop the strategy next session, but then create your realistic goals. How do you accomplish what you're setting out to do? How do you build the relationships that you want with your customers? How do you serve them properly? And how do you understand if you're doing that appropriately, right? Identify your platform priorities, because this will, again, in turn, influence your strategy. Is Facebook your priority, or is TikTok your priority? Maybe they're both your priority, but understanding that can help you understand how to repurpose content, for example, right? So all of that is part of that content strategy that we're going to be talking about next time. And of course, use AI tools for help. That's a huge part of being in the fast-paced digital world, to be able to help develop strategy, to help develop content, to help write content for you, help write the first steps of the content for you. Always come back and look at that and make sure that everything is accurate and up to standard, but use the tool.
Yeah, I want to just chime in here and really affirm the importance of the brand as the foundation. Earlier on, when I showed the screen of all of our services, top left, meaning the start, where you get started is the brand strategy, the brand foundation. You can use whatever term you want. I would think of this as the map. before you head off on a large, journey or what's the word I'm looking for? Like an adventure, you're going to want to have a map so you know where you're going. So the brand strategy is so important. But doubly, once you get to the point where you're using AI tools, if you don't have that brand strategy as the foundation to inform the AI tools, you're going to be spinning your wheels. So it is very, very important for both humans that are going to be in charge of marketing and for AI tools that are going to be assisting you for them to understand the brand strategy. So I just wanted to really highlight that as probably the most important thing that we try to hit home every time we're doing these sessions and have students in our training program.
Just a little example, I don't know how many times I've spoken to people who have gone through a visual branding process, have gotten their social medias set up, have started posting, but haven't done this part of it first. And so all of that work and time and energy and money that they've invested into building out those platforms and into building a visual brand doesn't feel authentic to them, and they really don't enjoy posting. They don't enjoy creating content. They don't enjoy what they're doing because it's not a reflection of all of this, right? So it's really important to set that foundation first so that down the road, when you're developing your content, it is a reflection of who you are and how you want to develop relationships with your audience there. So just a couple little key takeaways here. You must know your audience in order to be able to connect with them, in order to understand where they are in the digital world. Always direct your traffic back to your quote unquote owned digital space, because that's where you're going to be able to maintain a little bit better of a relationship with them, where you can share more information, you can share your blogs with them, you can get them signed up for your email newsletter, those kinds of things. So meeting people where they are at the rented spots and bringing them back into your owned home, right? Playing the game, right? Understanding what their game, quote unquote, is, understanding how to optimize content on TikTok, right? What niche are you participating in? What type of sounds are you using on your Instagram reels, right? Playing their game is really important to be able to maximize engagement there. Use your brand and AI to help you build a good strategy, right? Brand first, using the technology that's available to you in order to build up a strategy from there. So kind of your main takeaways for today. Coming up, we have a content marketing strategy. So that's next month. We'll talk about how to develop a cross-platform strategy using your brand and all of those tools as well. Search engine optimization will be coming up after that, which is kind of the basics of how to help you rank higher, reach further on your search engine optimization side of things. And then in June, we'll be covering copywriting. So what does that mean? How to curate marketing content, words that sell. It's one of my favorite topics. So I'm really excited about that one.
Just to jump in very quickly, we have a few that are commenting that they're going to have to jump in a moment. So we'll get right into the offer. So if you can stick around for 5 minutes, that'll be worth your time. And of course, we'll follow up. Business Link will follow up with a link to the recording and also the formal offer as well. So, but this is it. New product alert. Talk about this, Megan.
Yeah, so we as 910, a digital agency, we're really looking at leaning into this AI first approach with digital marketing. And so we are onboarding a new product in the next couple months here that we'll be able to be offering to all of you, which is kind of a unified dashboard of all of these things that we talk about in digital marketing. It allows you to be AI first, have AI analytics and conversations with people. It gives you AI tools like content development, right in with the social engagement or social management, reputation management, analytics, email marketing, all of those things kind of together in one spot. So we're really excited about this, being able to offer this to all of you, because it's such an important thing to be able to manage all of these tools all in one spot. And Ryan, I know you had a really great, not analogy, but why we're doing this the way we're doing this.
Yeah, maybe go back to the other screen for a moment, and I'll drop a link in a moment where you can get access to this. So when we're working with companies and they have their employees go through the training academy, at the end, they become certified digital marketing professionals like Megan, or maybe they've just taken some of the short courses and they've increased their skill, their knowledge, their confidence. But then what happens is with all of this, they have to then go into the trenches and they have to start executing, activating their digital marketing strategies. And very quickly, they're encountered with, I have to use all of these different software tools, maybe MailChimp for email marketing or Constant Contact. I need to maybe use Buffer so I have one dashboard to manage all my social media from multiple platforms. So what we recognized is we were providing the training, but we didn't have access to a really strong set of platform and tools. So in 2025, what we're doing is we're investing in bringing on a bunch of new technology that will give our clients both the training, the knowledge, the skills, as well as the software tools to use. And those software tools we're going to be able to support. So that's kind of the 1-2 punch that we recognized we had a bit of a gap. And so this is important for you as a company too. Do you have services, but those services are missing maybe a companion service that would really round it out for your clients? And so for us, it's the technology platform, the tools that you'll be able to use that we'll be able to support. And as Megan mentioned, significantly integrating AI into these tools to really make them powerful for you. So Megan, I just dropped the link in there, so feel free to go to the next screen and I'll kind of hand it back to you.
Sounds good. So yeah, really what we're wanting to do is integrate all of the conversations that we have into one kind of unified space so that you as the marketer, as the business owner, as the entrepreneur have resources to be able to activate all of these things rather than having to pick and choose necessarily what is going to work best for you. So all of these tools are there to help make your consistency a lot easier to follow, to be able to build in natural workflows and processes that help with your brand engagement, with your brand awareness online.
And Megan, everyone starts, things, January is the month for fresh starts, but spring is the month for fresh starts. So we're going to be releasing these to our clients in April and May. So feel free to sign up and we'll be in touch with you and we'll give you access to the training platform. And Megan, I know you're excited about this as well. We're also expanding our learning community, which previously the learning community was only for those clients that are going through our training academy, where we're going to be opening up our learning community to those that are looking to get access to the tools as well. So lots to stay in touch with us about.
There are a few questions on price. That is kind of variable depending on what tools that you need. So we will be having more conversations about those once the product is actually launched. So if you go to that link, the Business Link community, 910.ca/Business Link community, that will give you the opportunity to kind of sign up for the wait list, and we'll be able to have those conversations with you in order to be able to get what you actually need, right? And not.
Yeah, and two things. We're working with small, medium businesses, so the price will be affordable. And it'll be paired with opportunities to join our training academy. And as we normally do, working with Matt and the Business Link team, we have preferential pricing and promotions for our Business Link friends as well. So more info if you sign up for sure.
I did also see a question about how long does the certification or course take. That depends on which one you choose, anything from 3 to 6 months, depending on if you want kind of upskilling in one particular area or if you want to earn your professional certification. That one is a 6-month course. But again, you get kind of all of the practical tools and knowledge you need in order to activate digital marketing on a day-to-day basis. So that's a really effective way to get those skills kind of quickly and effectively, efficiently. And you earn an actual accredited certificate from the Digital Marketing Institute, which is the global leader in digital marketing education. So really cool institute that we've been working with for the last few years now, and have seen really excellent success from our students being able to activate their own strategies very, very effectively. So thank you all. Any other questions? I know we've got a few minutes left, so I just want to leave this slide up for people who want to jump in there. But any other questions? Matt, did you have any follow-ups here?
We have had, there are some questions and some we kind of answered in the chat as we went there. There was one kind of interesting one, and I think many people kind of think about this. So it really gets to the heart of kind of personal social media against business social media. So someone put in that they, they use social media and that they have certain views, and it's actually made they're banned from certain social media platforms. The kind of impact on the business, like how do we issue with kind of the
Yeah.
censorship or being banned by
Megan,
platforms?
you want to tackle that or me?
I like a tough question.
It is, well, it's a nuanced question, and maybe I'll kick us off. Realtors would be good examples of this, where some businesses, the person is the business, let's say. And so for a realtor, they're very likely going to be on, say, Facebook personally, as both in the context of their business and their personal life. So that's a choice. What I would say, the moment you're using any social media platform for business, you better be very mindful of if you're also using it for personal. Some people are private, or you might be extra spicy on the weekend, but more conservative in business. And so mostly it's just it's a question of awareness. You certainly can have two profiles, and many people do that, where they'll have their personal self and their business self, and they'll never intermix them. Others will much more organically use social media for both personas, their business and their personal. So more than anything, be aware that what you put out on the internet is effectively there forever, and the people you're doing business with may approve or not with your personal sort of social profile, or they may be completely so irrelevant and different that why would you want to confuse your audience with personal Ryan and business Ryan, which are so confusing. And so it's probably the best question to consider and to really think that out and to map that out. And then it might be that I choose to use LinkedIn for business, and I keep Instagram just for my personal, and I lock it down and I only use it for friends. So that's probably the way to think about it.
Absolutely. Kind of the conversation between a personal brand and a professional brand. Like you said, there are a lot of people, realtors are a great example, solopreneurs are a great example of they themselves are the business brand. And it's really, that is a conversation you need to have with yourself about what is more important to you to reach a wide audience, regardless of viewpoints. Or is it important to you to only reach the audiences that are going to share those viewpoints that you're wanting to discuss, right? So that's not a question that I can answer for you. That's something that you have to kind of do a little bit of introspection yourself. But like Ryan said, that the minute that you start using personal pages for business, you have to understand that there are going to be repercussions depending on what you're sharing on those platforms, right?
Well,
So,
and a caution from the business side. Let's talk about Business Link. So Business Link, as an organization, has social media accounts on Facebook and LinkedIn. And to the extent, if Business Link were to open up to its staff, to various staff as administrators for that page, you could imagine, Matt, that if you're an administrator for a Business Link Facebook page, but then your personal Facebook gets banned for whatever reason, that will have a detrimental effect on Business Link Facebook page because you're an administrator. So there is a caution for businesses to be really strict on what are the rules of engagement if an employee is going to be associated with that Facebook page as an administrator. So Megan administers many of our social media accounts. So because of that, she is extra cautious and aware that she has her accounts are now affiliated for a business use. So just a consideration there too.
Yeah, and I suppose it's less about that kind of alignment with the brand, isn't it? Like if those views align with your brand, well, yeah, you kind of, it's a very nuanced and personal thing, I suppose, isn't it? Yeah, and we're definitely seeing it right now. Not to get too political, but we kind of see it with Elon Musk, like the kind of things that he's doing outside of his core business, be it Tesla or be it SpaceX, is having a commercial impact on those things. And he's obviously made the choice that like he believes in what he's doing, and etc etc, and it aligns with his values, I assume. But we have to it's definitely a challenge.
one thing that I just want to mention as well, just logistically, particularly with Facebook, it is very, very difficult to set up new profiles for personal use. So if your personal account is tied to your business account on Facebook already, I would leave all of that untouched and just not dive into personal stuff on there, because if you do end up compromising that account, it's very, very difficult to either get that back or set up a new account with a new page. So Facebook is probably the most difficult one in that respect because of how stringent they are with that. So just be aware with that. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. We like those. Uh, sensitively handled. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for attending. We had lots and lots of people join us today and so many great questions, and hopefully we got to yours. A great next step for everyone here is to sign up for the next event, and you can do that by visiting businesslink.ca/events. Use the QR code. Make sure you sign up for our newsletter so you're never going to miss anything at all. But it's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you very much, Megan. Thank you very much, Ryan. And we'll see you again in 2 weeks' time.